Cassandra Reed had never been more desperate in her entire life, and that was saying something considering she once ate ramen for 43 consecutive days to make rent. The wedding invitation mocked her from the counter-embossed gold lettering announcing her younger sister's fairy tale wedding to a real estate mogul, complete with a handwritten note from her mother. "Please bring a +1 this time, sweetheart. Uncle Gerald keeps asking if you're a lesbian, and frankly, we're running out of excuses." Cassandra had crumpled the note, then smoothed it out again, reading it 3 more times before the humiliation fully crystallized in her chest. 28 years old, working as a junior architect at a firm that treated her like an intern, living in a studio apartment where she could touch both walls while lying in bed. And now this. Her family's pity had graduated from concern to spectacle. She could already hear the whispered conversations, see the sympathetic head tilts, endure her cousin Bethany's performative comfort while simultaneously bragging about her surgeon boyfriend. That's how she found herself scrolling through an app called Hire a Date at 2 in the morning, wine-drunk and riding a wave of self-destructive determination. The profiles ranged from college students looking for extra cash to aspiring actors building their portfolios. She needed someone convincing, someone who wouldn't make her look even more pathetic than she already felt. Then she saw him. The profile photo was artistic, shadowed a man with striking bone structure and an air of old-world elegance that seemed almost anachronistic against the app's modern interface. His hair appeared silver-white in the dim lighting, swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. The username was simply V. No last name, no elaborate bio, just available for upscale events, discretion guaranteed, $300 per evening. The price was steep, nearly her entire grocery budget for the month, but something about that face, that absolute confidence radiating even through a photograph, made her think he could pull it off. He looked like someone who belonged at country clubs and wine tastings, someone who could make her family believe she'd finally gotten her life together. Her thumb hovered over the request booking button. This was insane. This was the kind of thing that ended up as a cautionary tale on true crime podcasts. She pressed it anyway. The response came within minutes. Date, time, and dress code. No greeting, no pleasantries, just efficient professionalism. Cassandra typed back the details with shaking hands, added her phone number, and fell asleep before she could second-guess herself into canceling. The day of the wedding arrived with the cruel sunshine of a perfect autumn afternoon. Cassandra had changed outfits 4 times, finally settling on an emerald green dress that was elegant without trying too hard, her dark hair styled in loose waves. She looked good. She looked like someone who had her life together. She looked like a complete fraud. Her phone buzzed at exactly 4:30. Downstairs. She grabbed her clutch and hurried down the 3 flights of stairs. The elevator had been broken for 2 weeks, emerging onto the street to find a car that made her steps falter. Not a car. A pristine black vintage Rolls-Royce that looked like it had been driven out of a 1930s photograph, immaculate and somehow menacing in its elegance. The driver's door opened, and Cassandra forgot how to breathe. He was taller than she'd expected, at least 6'3", wearing a black suit that was so perfectly tailored it could only be custom. But it was his face that arrested her completely. The photographs hadn't done him justice. His skin was pale, luminously so, like porcelain or moonlight given form. His hair was indeed white, not gray with age, but pure white, like freshly fallen snow, styled back to reveal features so perfect they seemed almost inhuman. High cheekbones, a strong jaw, and eyes that were such a pale gray they appeared silver in the afternoon light. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read, something flickering across his face too quickly to identify, before smoothing into polite neutrality. Miss Reed. His voice was deep, accented with something European she couldn't quite place, roughened at the edges like aged whiskey. I am Vladislav, though you may call me Vlad if it pleases you. Of course his name was Vladislav. She'd hired someone who looked like he'd stepped out of a gothic romance novel. Her family was going to think she'd lost her mind. Cassandra, she managed, then winced. But you already knew that, obviously, from the app. Something that might have been amusement touched his mouth. Shall we? You indicated the ceremony begins at 5. He opened the passenger door for her, the gesture so smoothly courteous it seemed choreographed. Cassandra slid into leather seats that probably cost more than her entire apartment's furnishing and tried not to visibly panic. The interior smelled like sandalwood and something else, something darker and richer that she couldn't identify. Vladislav settled into the driver's seat with fluid grace, and the car purred to life with barely a sound. They pulled into traffic, and Cassandra watched the city slide past through windows that were tinted almost black. "So," she said, because the silence was crushing her, "have you done this before? The whole fake date thing?" "Not precisely." He navigated through traffic with the ease of someone who'd been driving for far longer than he appeared to have been alive. He couldn't have been more than 35, though something about him suggested older. "Though I have attended many social obligations that required performance." "Right, okay, so we should probably get our story straight. How did we meet?" "An art gallery." The answer came immediately, no hesitation. 3 months ago. You were admiring a painting, something classical, perhaps Caravaggio, and I approached you. We discussed chiaroscuro techniques. You found my knowledge pretentious but intriguing." Despite her anxiety, Cassandra felt a smile tug at her lips. "That's actually pretty good. Do you really know about art?" "I have had considerable time to study it." They spent the 30-minute drive building their fiction. Vladislav was a consultant vague enough to avoid detailed questions who traveled frequently for work. He'd been to Italy 7 times, preferred red wine to white, read extensively, and had never seen Star Wars, which Cassandra declared a crime against cinema. He listened to her nervous chatter with what seemed like genuine attention, occasionally offering a comment or question that revealed an unexpectedly sharp wit. By the time they pulled up to the venue, a sprawling estate in Connecticut that her future brother-in-law's family owned, Cassandra felt marginally less terrified. At least until she saw her mother standing at the entrance, already scanning arriving guests with the intensity of a military general. "That's my mom," Cassandra said weakly. "She's a lot. I have known many formidable women." Vladislav exited the car and came around to open her door, offering his hand. His fingers were cool against hers, his grip gentle but firm. "I suspect I shall survive the encounter." Cassandra's mother descended upon them before they had made it 3 steps, her eyes widening as she took in Vladislav. "Cassandra, you didn't mention your date was so—" she faltered, clearly trying to find a polite word for devastatingly beautiful. "This is Vladislav," Cassandra said, impressed by how steady her voice sounded. "Vlad, my mother, Patricia Reed." "Mrs. Reed." Vladislav brought her mother's hand to his lips in a gesture that should have seemed absurdly old-fashioned, but somehow worked perfectly. "Your daughter has spoken of you with great affection." Patricia actually blushed. Her mother, who hadn't blushed in decades, turned pink. "Oh my." "Well, how lovely. You must tell me everything. How did you two meet?" Cassandra opened her mouth, but Vladislav smoothly took over, relating their fabricated gallery meeting with such conviction that even she almost believed it. He added details they hadn't discussed: how she'd been wearing a blue dress that day, how she'd argued passionately about the use of shadow in Baroque painting, how he'd been captivated by her intelligence before her beauty. By the time he finished, Patricia was looking at Cassandra with something dangerously close to pride. "Well, you've certainly kept him a secret. Come, the ceremony is about to start. Vlad, you simply must sit with the family." The wedding itself passed in a blur of white roses and string quartets. Cassandra was hyper-aware of Vladislav beside her, his presence commanding despite his stillness. He didn't fidget, didn't check his phone, barely seemed to breathe. Several times she caught other guests staring at him, drawn by something they probably couldn't articulate. Her sister looked beautiful walking down the aisle, and Cassandra felt the usual complicated tangle of love and envy. When Vladislav's hand found hers during the vows, the gesture so natural it seemed unconscious, some of that tangle loosened. The reception was held in a glass-walled ballroom overlooking manicured gardens now lit by thousands of fairy lights. Cassandra had been dreading this part: the mingling, the questions, the inevitable comparisons, but with Vladislav at her side she felt armored. "Cassie," her cousin Bethany materialized, champagne in hand and that familiar competitive gleam in her eye. "Is this the mysterious boyfriend Mom mentioned?" "Vladislav." He offered his hand, which Bethany took while very obviously examining him from head to toe. Wow, you are. Wow. She took a long drink of champagne. What do you do, Vladislav? I manage certain acquisitions for private collectors. Like art? Among other things. Bethany looked like she wanted to ask more, but her surgeon boyfriend appeared, and the conversation devolved into the usual dance of subtle one-upmanship. Cassandra watched Vladislav navigate it with ease, parrying invasive questions with polite deflections, somehow managing to seem both charming and slightly dangerous. You're really good at this, she murmured when they finally escaped to the bar. I have attended many such gatherings. He studied the bartender with an expression she couldn't read. Though the company is unusually pleasant tonight, heat crept up her neck. You don't have to say things like that. My family already loves you. I was not speaking for your family's benefit. Before she could process that, Uncle Gerald appeared, already 3 drinks deep if his swaying was any indication. So you're the boyfriend. Patricia said Cassie finally found someone. Thought maybe she was batting for the other team. You know what I mean? Cassandra's mortification must have shown on her face because Vladislav's hand moved to the small of her back, a possessive gesture that sent electricity down her spine. Your niece is remarkable, he said, his voice dropping to something darker, something that made Uncle Gerald actually take a step back. Any man would be fortunate to earn her attention. Gerald mumbled something and retreated. Cassandra turned to Vladislav, ready to apologize for her family's awfulness, but the words died when she met his eyes. There was something fierce there, something protective that seemed disproportionate for someone she'd hired for the evening. Thank you, she said instead, for that. I do not appreciate seeing you disrespected. He said it simply, like a fact, like the sky was blue and water was wet. The DJ announced the first dance, and Cassandra watched her sister and new brother-in-law take the floor. When the song shifted and other couples were invited to join, Vladislav extended his hand. May I? She should have expected this. Dancing was part of the date experience. But when he led her onto the floor and pulled her into a formal waltz position, one hand at her waist and the other clasping hers, it felt like something far more intimate than she'd prepared for. He moved with the fluid grace of someone who'd learned to dance in an era when it was a required skill, leading her through steps she only half remembered from a college ballroom dancing elective. You're making me look good, she said breathlessly. You require no assistance in that regard. His hand tightened slightly at her waist, drawing her marginally closer. This close, she could see that his eyes weren't just gray but flecked with silver, like mercury. Though I confess, I am enjoying this more than anticipated. More than your usual Saturday nights being someone's fake boyfriend? More than any evening I have spent in quite some time. The sincerity in his voice did something dangerous to her heart. This wasn't real, she reminded herself. He was a professional. This was a transaction. But the way he was looking at her, the way his thumb traced small circles against her back, the way he seemed utterly focused on her despite the crowd, it felt real. When the song ended, he didn't immediately release her. They stood there, swaying slightly, until someone bumped into them and broke the spell. Dinner was an elaborate affair with too many courses and too much wine. Cassandra found herself actually relaxing, laughing at Vladislav's dry observations about the more ridiculous aspects of the wedding. He barely touched his food, she noticed, pushing the rare steak around his plate more than eating it, but he seemed content to watch her. You're not hungry? She asked. Something flickered across his face. I have particular dietary requirements. I ate before we met. Oh God, are you vegan? Please tell me I'm not watching you suffer through a meat-heavy meal. Not vegan, simply selective. Her mother interrupted before she could press further, dragging Vladislav away to meet various relatives who all seemed equally charmed and slightly intimidated by him. Cassandra watched him go, watched the way he moved through the crowd like someone used to being obeyed, and felt a pang of something she absolutely could not afford to feel. She was sipping champagne and half listening to her aunt's monologue about timeshares when her sister appeared at her elbow. Okay, spill. Where did you find him? Art gallery, Cassandra said, the lie now well practiced. 3 months ago. And you didn't tell me? Cassie, he's... Emma lowered her voice. He's like something out of a movie. Is he real? Please tell me he's real and not some kind of elaborate escort situation. Cassandra's face must have done something terrible, because Emma's eyes widened. "Oh my God, Cassie, no, tell me you didn't." I panicked. The words came out strangled. Mom wouldn't stop with the comments about being alone, and Uncle Gerald kept asking invasive questions, and I needed someone for tonight. You hired an escort to my wedding. Technically, he's a professional date, not an escort. There's a difference. Does he know this is fake? Of course he knows. I hired him through an app. Emma, please don't be mad. Her sister was quiet for a long moment, looking across the room to where Vladislav was politely enduring their father's military stories. Does he know you're falling for him? I'm not, but the denial stuck in her throat. It's been 4 hours. I knew I loved Marcus in 3. Emma squeezed her hand. Just be careful, okay? Because that man is either the world's best actor, or he's just as gone for you as you are for him. Before Cassandra could argue, the DJ announced the bouquet toss. She tried to hide in the bathroom, but her cousins found her and dragged her into the crowd of single women. The bouquet arced through the air in what seemed like slow motion and landed directly in her hands. The room erupted in applause and knowing looks. Cassandra wanted to die. This was too much, too ironic, holding a bouquet while standing next to a man she'd paid to be there. But when she looked up, Vladislav was watching her with an expression that made her breath catch. Not amusement, not detachment, something raw and hungry and almost pained. The evening wound down into dancing and gradually diminishing crowds. Cassandra found herself on the terrace, needing air, needing space from the performance. The fairy lights cast everything in gold, and the autumn night was cool enough to raise goosebumps on her arms. You will catch cold. Vladislav's jacket settled around her shoulders, carrying his scent sandalwood and something wilder. He stood beside her, looking out over the gardens. Your sister seems happy. She is. They're good together. Cassandra pulled his jacket tighter. Thank you. For tonight, you went above and beyond. My family completely bought it. Perhaps because it required little acting. Her heart did something complicated. Vladislav, Vlad, please. He turned to face her fully, and in the dim lighting, his features seemed even more otherworldly. I should tell you something. When I accepted your request, I expected a tedious evening of playing a role. I have lived a very long time, Cassandra, and I have learned to expect little from such encounters. How long? The question slipped out before she could stop it. He smiled, and for the first time, she saw his teeth. They were very white, very perfect, except for the canines, which were slightly longer than human norm. Probably genetic, she thought distantly. Probably cosmetic. Longer than you would believe, and in all that time I have attended countless gatherings, played countless roles. But tonight, he reached out, his cool fingers brushing her cheek with infinite gentleness. Tonight I found myself wishing this were real, wishing I had met you in that gallery, wishing I had earned your presence rather than been paid for it. You're really good at this, she whispered, but her voice shook, making it feel real. I am not acting. His thumb traced her lower lip, and his eyes tracked the movement with intense focus. I should not do this. I should complete our transaction and disappear from your life. It would be safer for you, wiser for both of us. Why? Because I am not what you think I am. Because knowing me comes with dangers you cannot imagine. Because I am being selfish even standing this close to you. I don't understand. I know. He leaned closer, his breath cool against her lips. And perhaps that is for the best. He was going to kiss her. Every molecule in her body knew it, anticipated it, yearned for it. But at the last moment, he pulled back, something like pain crossing his face. I should return you home. The drive back to the city was quiet, thick with unspoken words. Cassandra kept stealing glances at him, trying to reconcile the polished professional from the app with the man who'd just confessed to wishing their arrangement was real. When they pulled up to her building, she didn't immediately reach for the door handle. Can I see you again? The words tumbled out before courage could abandon her. Not as a paid date, just, see you? His hands tightened on the steering wheel. You should not want that, but I do. Cassandra. Her name in his mouth was a prayer and a curse. If I say yes, if I allow this to continue, I will not be able to walk away. Do you understand? I will not be able to remain at a distance. Maybe I don't want you at a distance. He turned to face her, and his eyes were molten silver. "You do not know what you are inviting. Then show me." For a long moment, he simply looked at her, something vast and ancient moving behind his gaze. Then he reached into his jacket and withdrew a card, actual pressed cardstock with an address embossed in silver ink. "Tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock. Come to this address." "What is it?" "My home. And if you arrive, Cassandra Reed, I will tell you the truth of what I am. All of it. And then you may decide if you wish to continue knowing me." She took the card, fingers brushing his. "I'll be there. I suspect you will." He brought her hand to his lips again, but this time the kiss lingered, and she felt the sharp press of those two long canines against her skin. "Until tomorrow, then." She fled before she could do something stupid like beg him to come upstairs. In her apartment, she stood against the closed door, his jacket still around her shoulders, his card clutched in her hand, and tried to convince herself this wasn't insane. She failed completely. The address on the card led Cassandra to a building in the oldest part of the city, where cobblestone streets still existed and architecture leaned Gothic. The structure was a renovated church, all stone and stained glass, with an iron gate that swung open at her approach as if expecting her. She'd changed outfits 6 times, finally settling on dark jeans and a deep burgundy sweater, nice enough to show effort, casual enough to suggest she wasn't trying too hard. Her hands shook as she pressed the buzzer. The door opened immediately. Vladislav stood backlit by candlelight because of course he had candles instead of normal lighting, wearing simple black slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. Somehow he looked more dangerous like this, more real. "You came." He sounded genuinely surprised. "You asked me to." "I did, though I spent the day hoping you would be wise enough to refuse." He stepped aside. "Enter of your own free will, Cassandra. That matters." The interior was breathtaking. The church's original architecture had been preserved: soaring ceilings, stone columns, those stunning stained glass windows, but furnished with obvious wealth and impeccable taste. Art covered the walls, paintings she vaguely recognized as important, maybe museum quality. Books lined custom shelves, thousands of them, spines in languages she couldn't read. "You live here?" She turned in a slow circle, overwhelmed. "This is incredible. I have lived in many places. This suits my current needs." He watched her explore with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable, but somehow wasn't. "Wine?" "Sure. Yes, that would be good." He moved to a bar cart and poured something dark and red into crystal glasses. When he handed her one, their fingers brushed again, and she noticed once more how cool his skin was. Not cold, just not warm. "You said you'd tell me the truth." She sipped the wine. It was excellent, probably obscenely expensive. "About what you are." "I did." He didn't drink, she noticed, just held his glass. "And I will. But first, tell me, what did you think when you saw my profile? What made you choose me?" "Honestly, you looked like someone who could pull off being at a country club wedding. Someone who'd make my family stop pitying me." She laughed, hollow. "Pretty shallow, right?" "Practical. I've always appreciated pragmatism." He set his glass down untouched. "Did you notice anything unusual about me last night? Anything that seemed wrong?" Cassandra thought back. "You didn't eat much. Your skin is really pale. Your teeth are a little sharp. You move very gracefully." She paused. "You're strong. When you held me dancing, I could feel it, like you were consciously holding back." Observant. He moved closer, circling her slowly like a predator assessing prey. "What else? You seem older than you look. The way you talk, the way you reference having lived a long time. And your eyes." She turned to keep him in sight. "Sometimes they look silver, really silver, not just gray." "Yes." He stopped in front of her, close enough that she should have felt his body heat. She didn't. "Anything else?" "This is going to sound crazy." "Say it anyway." "You feel dangerous, not like you'd hurt me, but like you could. Like you're something pretending to be human, but not quite getting it right." The words sounded insane out loud. "God, I'm sorry, that's so rude." "It is accurate." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face with both hands. "I am not human, Cassandra. I have not been human for a very long time." Her heart hammered. "What are you?" The stories call us many things: Nosferatu, Strigoi, the undead. His thumb brushed her cheekbone with infinite tenderness. Vampire. She should have laughed, should have pulled away, called him crazy, left. But looking into those mercury eyes, feeling the coolness of his skin, remembering the sharpness of his teeth, it clicked into place with a certainty that bypassed logic. You're serious. Completely. Vampires are real. Yes. And you're one. I am. He released her face but didn't step back. More than that, I'm old by our standards. I've walked this earth for over 6 centuries. I've seen empires rise and fall, watched humanity transform itself a dozen times over. And I am what your stories call a vampire king, one of the ruling council that governs our kind. Cassandra's legs felt weak. She sat down heavily on a velvet sofa that probably cost more than her car. This is insane. I know. You're telling me you're a 600-year-old vampire king. 643 to be precise. And the app? The escort service? A whim. He sat beside her, careful to leave space between them. I was curious about modern courtship rituals, about how humans connect in this age of technology. The profile was meant as observation, a way to study your world. I did not expect anyone to actually hire me. But I did. You did. And when I saw your request, saw your photograph, something I thought long dead stirred in me. Curiosity, perhaps, interest, so I agreed. Cassandra's mind was reeling. The sun. What about the sun? A weakness, yes, though not as dramatic as your films suggest. I will not burst into flames, but prolonged exposure is painful and weakens me considerably. I'm strongest at night. Garlic? Crosses? Superstition, though blessed objects wielded by true believers, can be uncomfortable. Blood. Her voice dropped. You drink blood? Yes. No hesitation, no shame. I require it to survive, not in the quantities your stories suggest. I feed perhaps once a week, and I do not kill. There are establishments that cater to our kind, willing donors who are compensated and cared for. Like blood banks, but weirder. Precisely. She should be terrified, should be running. Instead, she found herself asking, "Can you turn into a bat?" That surprised a laugh out of him, a sound so warm and unexpected, it made her smile despite everything. No, though I can move very quickly when needed, and my strength is considerable. I heal rapidly from most injuries, and I am, for all practical purposes, immortal, barring violence or starvation. That sounds lonely. His expression shifted, something vulnerable breaking through the ancient confidence. It is. More than you can possibly understand. I have loved and lost more times than I care to remember. I have watched everyone I cared for wither and die while I remain unchanged. After the first few centuries, I stopped trying. It hurt less to remain alone. Then why tell me this? Why risk it? Because from the moment I saw you standing outside your building, something changed. Because sitting beside you at that wedding, touching you, talking to you, I felt something I have not felt in decades. Hope. He turned to face her fully. I am telling you this because I want you to know what I am before this goes any further. Because if we continue, if I allow myself to care for you, I will be possessive. Protective to the point of aggression. I will want to keep you safe from everything, including my own world, and I will not be able to bear the thought of losing you, even though I know that if you remain human, I eventually will. The weight of those words settled over her. What if I don't want to remain human? His eyes flashed, pupils dilating. Do not say such things unless you mean them. The transformation is possible, but irreversible and dangerous. Many do not survive it. I'm not saying I'm ready for that, but I'm also not running away. She took his cool hand in hers, lacing their fingers. You're right, this is crazy. I should be terrified, but I'm not. Or maybe I am, but I don't care. Because last night felt more real than anything in my life. And if you're telling me it wasn't just an act, then I want to know where this goes. Cassandra, just tell me one thing. Was any of it real for you? The dancing, the conversation, the way you looked at me? All of it. He brought their joined hands to his lips, kissing her knuckles with reverent attention. Every moment, You have no idea what you do to me, how difficult it was not to kiss you on that terrace, how I sat outside your building for an hour after you left because I could not bear to drive away." Her breath caught. "You could kiss me now. If I start, I may not stop. Maybe I don't want you to stop." He made a sound low in his throat, something between a growl and a groan, and then he was kissing her. His mouth was cool and firm against hers, demanding and gentle all at once. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her head to deepen the kiss, and she tasted something dark and rich on his tongue, wine and something else, something intrinsically him. When he pulled back, his eyes were pure silver, almost glowing in the candlelight. "You taste like sunlight," he murmured against her lips, "like everything I should not have. Good thing I'm terrible at following rules." He laughed again, that surprised, warm sound, and kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the corner of her jaw. "I want to show you something. My world. Will you trust me?" "Yes." He stood, pulling her with him, and led her to a section of wall covered in a massive tapestry. When he pulled it aside, it revealed a door that opened to stone stairs descending into darkness. There is an entire city beneath this city, he explained as they descended, the temperature dropping with each step. "When our kind first came to America, we built our own infrastructure, our own society hidden from human eyes. What I'm about to show you is forbidden to humans under normal circumstances. But you are not normal circumstances." The stairs opened into a vast underground space that stole Cassandra's breath. It was like stepping into another era, gas lamps flickering along cobblestone streets, buildings carved from living stone with Gothic architecture that would have seemed at home in medieval Europe, and vampires, dozens of them, all with that same pale skin and white hair, moving through the streets with predatory grace. Some turned to watch as Vladislav led her through, their eyes glowing various shades in the darkness, silver, gold, red. Cassandra felt like prey walking through a den of wolves, but Vladislav's hand remained firm around hers and none approached. "This is incredible," she breathed. "How many?" "In this city, perhaps 500. Worldwide, our numbers are in the low thousands. We are not common, and we do not turn humans lightly." He guided her toward a building that dwarfed the others, practically a castle transplanted underground. "This is the court, where disputes are settled, laws are made, and I conduct most of my business as king." Guards stood at the entrance, both male, both watching Cassandra with open curiosity. Vladislav said something in a language she didn't recognize. It sounded Eastern European, full of sharp consonants, and they bowed, stepping aside. The interior was opulent almost to the point of absurdity. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, walls covered in art and weaponry from various historical periods. A throne room straight out of a fantasy novel, complete with an actual throne carved from black stone. "That feels excessive," she said, eyeing the throne. "It is. I rarely use it. But tradition demands certain theatrics." He led her past it to a smaller chamber behind, clearly an office, with modern computers sitting incongruously among antique furniture. "I wanted you to see this, to understand the responsibility I carry, the world I inhabit. If you choose to be part of my life, this comes with it. Politics, danger, a society with rules and hierarchies you barely understand. Are you trying to scare me away? Perhaps, or preparing you for reality?" He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "I have enemies, Cassandra. Vampires who resent my power, who would use you against me if they knew you mattered to me. Humans who hunt our kind, who would kill you simply for associating with me. This is not a fairy tale. There is real danger. Then protect me. You said you'd be possessive and protective, so do that." His arms tightened around her almost painfully before he forced himself to gentleness. "You do not know what you ask. The kind of protection I want to offer would mean keeping you close always. It would mean changing your life entirely." "My life isn't that great, honestly. Terrible apartment, mediocre job, family that pities me. Maybe I'm ready for a change." "You would give up sunlight?" "I work in an office with no windows. I'm basically nocturnal already." Despite the seriousness of the conversation, she felt him smile against her hair. "You are extraordinary. Do you know that? 6 hours of knowing the truth and you are making jokes about becoming a vampire." "Humor is how I cope with existential crises." She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. I'm not saying I'm ready to transform tomorrow, but I'm also not walking away. Show me this world, Vlad. Let me decide if I can handle it. Over the following weeks, he did exactly that. Cassandra found herself living a double life, working at the architecture firm during the day, then descending into the vampire city at night. Vladislav introduced her to others of his kind, each with their own story of transformation and survival. There was Serafina, a vampire who claimed to have known Michelangelo, who spoke about art with passionate intensity. Constantine, who'd been a Russian soldier during the Napoleonic Wars and now oversaw security for the court. Elisabetta, transformed during the Italian Renaissance, who eyed Cassandra with barely concealed jealousy whenever Vladislav touched her. She was your lover, Cassandra said one night after a particularly tense council meeting she'd been allowed to observe. Elisabetta. 200 years ago, briefly. Vladislav poured her wine in his home. She'd been spending more nights there than her own apartment. It ended amicably. She doesn't look like it ended amicably. She did not anticipate me bringing a human into our world, into my life. He sat beside her, pulling her against his chest in a gesture that had become comfortable. She will adjust or she will not. It matters little to me. Cassandra traced patterns on his hand, marveling as always at the coolness of his skin. She'd grown used to it, even found it soothing now. Do I need to worry about vampire ex-girlfriends trying to kill me? I would destroy anyone who attempted to harm you. He said it so casually, like commenting on the weather. Completely, without hesitation or mercy. The scary part was how safe that made her feel. That's deeply unhealthy. Undoubtedly. He kissed the top of her head. Yet honest. You have become precious to me, Cassandra, more precious than anything I've possessed in centuries. The thought of losing you is unbearable. You'll have to lose me eventually, unless, she hesitated, unless I change. His entire body went rigid. We have discussed this. We've danced around it, but we haven't actually talked about it. She turned in his arms to face him. What would it mean, the transformation? Pain. His expression was bleak. 3 days of agony as your body dies and rebuilds itself. Many do not survive. The mortality rate is perhaps 40%, higher if the human is not in prime health. Even if you survive, you would be changed in ways beyond the physical. Your sense of morality would shift. Your relationship with humanity would fundamentally alter. You would need to feed on blood to survive, and the first year is the hardest, learning control. But I'd be with you, for as long as we wanted. Yes. The word seemed dragged from him. But I cannot ask that of you, cannot demand you give up your humanity, your family, your entire life. You're not asking, I'm offering. Cassandra. Not now, she interrupted. I'm not ready now, but someday. If this continues, if we stay together, I want that option. I want to know it's possible. He searched her face for a long moment. If you truly wish it, when you are ready, I will transform you myself. I will guide you through every moment, and I will make certain you survive. But you must be sure, absolutely certain, because there is no going back. I understand. They sealed it with a kiss that turned heated, Vladislav's control fraying as he pinned her beneath him on the sofa. His mouth moved to her throat, and she felt the sharp press of his fangs against her pulse. He didn't bite, didn't break the skin, but the promise of it sent electricity through her veins. Not yet, he growled against her skin. I will not risk harming you. So careful, she teased breathlessly. You have no idea how much restraint you demand of me. He forced himself to pull back, putting space between them even as every line of his body radiated want. I crave your blood almost as much as I crave you. The scent of it, the sound of your pulse, it drives me to madness. Is that normal for vampires and humans? No. We find humans attractive as food and occasionally as companions, but this, he gestured between them, frustrated. This depth of feeling is rare. Some vampires go centuries without experiencing it. It is why I never expected it, never prepared for how completely you would consume me. A crash from somewhere else in the converted church made them both freeze. Vladislav moved in a blur, positioning himself between Cassandra and the door, his entire demeanor shifting from lover to predator in an instant. "Stay behind me." 3 vampires burst into the room, and Cassandra recognized one Elisabetta, flanked by 2 males. All 3 had their eyes fully silver, fangs bared in snarls. "This has gone far enough, Vladislav." Elisabetta's voice was cold fury. "You bring a human into our court, parade her before the council, keep her close enough that she knows all our secrets. It is forbidden, it is dangerous, and we will not allow it." "You will not allow." Vladislav's voice dropped to something that raised every hair on Cassandra's neck. "I am king here. I bow to no council's dictates regarding my personal affairs." "Then you have forgotten the laws you swore to uphold. Humans who learn of us are to be turned or killed, no exceptions. She will be turned when she is ready. How convenient. And in the meantime, what stops her from revealing us to the world? What prevents her from becoming a liability?" "I do." The words were absolute. "Any who move against her move against me." One of the males laughed, sharp and ugly. "You would go to war over a human. Your mind has weakened. Vladislav, perhaps it is time for new leadership." The temperature in the room seemed to plummet. Vladislav moved, faster than Cassandra could track, and suddenly the laughing male was pinned against the wall, Vladislav's hand around his throat. "Repeat that. I dare you." "Vlad." Cassandra found her voice, forced strength into it. "Don't. It's what they want." "Listen to your pet," Elisabetta sneered. "At least she has some sense." "Call her that again and see what happens." Vladislav released the male, who dropped, gasping. "I have been patient with this jealousy, Elisabetta. I have tolerated your disapproval out of respect for what we once were to each other, but my patience is exhausted. Cassandra remains. She remains under my protection, under my authority as king, and any who challenge that will answer to me directly. Am I understood?" "The others won't accept this." Elisabetta's composure cracked slightly. "You risk everything for something that will last a heartbeat in our terms." "Then I risk everything. Now leave, all of you." They left, but the threat lingered. Vladislav remained tense, staring at the door long after they'd gone. "That was bad," Cassandra said quietly. "Yes." He turned to her, and the anguish in his face broke her heart. "I have put you in danger. I knew it was possible, but I selfishly refused to believe anyone would be foolish enough to move against a king's chosen. I was wrong. So what do? I keep you close. I assign guards, and I make it very clear what the consequences will be for any who threaten you." He cupped her face gently, the contrast between his tenderness and his earlier violence stark. "I'm sorry. This is my fault. We're in this together." She covered his hands with hers. "You're not getting rid of me that easily." But the incident changed things. Cassandra found herself with constant shadows, vampires assigned to protect her, watching from corners whenever she moved through the underground city. At work, she noticed the same pale faces in the coffee shop across the street, standing sentinel. It should have felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like proof of how much she meant to him. Vladislav was using his considerable power and resources to keep her safe, and something about that dedication cemented what she already knew in her heart. She was completely, irrevocably in love with him. The realization struck her one night while watching him in council, mediating a dispute between 2 vampire factions. He was magnificent, like this commanding and fair, wielding power with the confidence of someone who'd done it for centuries. When he glanced at her, checking that she was okay, his expression softening just for her heart simply knew. After the council dissolved, he came to her immediately. "You look strange. Are you unwell?" "I'm in love with you." The words spilled out before she could second-guess them. "I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, but I love you. I need you to know that." For a moment, he just stared at her. Then he was kissing her like she was air and he was drowning, like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. When he pulled back, his eyes were blazing silver. "I have existed for over 6 centuries, he said roughly. "I have spoken a dozen languages, lived through countless historical moments, experienced things you cannot imagine. And nothing in all that time compares to hearing you say those words." He kissed her again, softer. "I love you, Cassandra Reed. I love your courage, your humor, your ridiculous optimism in the face of my darkness. I love you so completely, it terrifies me. Good. We can be terrified together. They barely made it back to his home before the careful control shattered. He lifted her effortlessly, vampire strength making it seem easy, and carried her to his bedroom, a space she'd glimpsed but never entered, all dark silks and dramatically carved furniture. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against her throat as he laid her on the bed. "Tell me to slow down." "Don't stop! Don't you dare stop!" His hands were everywhere, cool against her heated skin, as he stripped away her clothes with barely restrained urgency. She tugged at his shirt, frustrated by buttons, until he simply tore it off. His body was sculpture perfect, pale and muscled and completely hers in that moment. When he finally slid inside her, they both gasped. His control hung by a thread as he moved, his fangs scraping her shoulder without breaking skin, his hands gripping her hips hard enough to bruise. She urged him on, nails raking down his back, legs wrapped around his waist. "Mine," he growled against her ear. "Say it. Yours, always yours." The pleasure built impossibly, spiraling tighter until she shattered around him. He followed moments later with a sound like a prayer, her name on his lips, and for several long moments they simply breathed together in the aftermath. He rolled to pull her against his chest, his hand stroking her hair with infinite gentleness. "I have never," he said quietly, "never in all my long existence felt anything as profound as this moment." Cassandra smiled against his cool skin. "Good, because I'm not done with you yet." They made love twice more that night, slower the second time, almost reverent, then with playful intensity that had her laughing against his mouth. When she finally dozed as dawn approached somewhere above them, the underground city had no windows. Operated on eternal night, she felt safe in a way she'd never experienced. She woke hours later to find him watching her, propped on one elbow, his expression soft. "Creepy," she murmured sleepily. "I do not need to sleep as you do, and you are beautiful like this, peaceful." "Smooth talker," she stretched, felt pleasant aches in interesting places. "What time is it?" "Afternoon by surface standards. You have missed work." "Oh God," she sat up, reaching for her phone. 6 missed calls from her boss. "Shit, I have to—" "You are ill." He said it with such calm authority that she paused. "You will call and inform them you have caught something and require several days to recover." "I can't just skip work for vampire sex." "Why not? It seems an excellent reason to me." Despite her panic, she laughed. "You're a terrible influence. I am a king used to getting my way. Call in sick, Cassandra. Stay with me." She should have been responsible, should have made excuses and rushed home to shower and change and pretend nothing had shifted fundamentally in her world. Instead, she called in sick and spent 3 days in Vladislav's underground palace, learning the rhythms of his life. He showed her his collection of books, some of them original manuscripts from before the printing press. He taught her phrases in languages that had been dead for centuries. He introduced her to vampire politics, explaining the delicate balance of power that kept their species hidden and relatively peaceful. "We have strict laws," he explained one evening over wine she drank. He didn't. "No turning humans without permission from the regional council. No feeding to the point of death. No exposing our existence to human authorities. The punishments for violations are severe." "Like what?" "Execution usually. We cannot afford rogues who threaten the entire species' survival." "And you enforce these laws?" "When I must." His expression darkened. "I do not enjoy it, but I am king. The responsibility falls to me." Cassandra thought about that, the weight he carried, the isolation of leadership. "It's lonely at the top." "It was, before you." He pulled her into his lap, a position that had become habitual. "Now I have something worth protecting beyond duty, something that makes the burden bearable." On the 4th day, reality intruded. Cassandra's phone rang with her mother's number, and guilt made her answer. "Cassandra Joy Reed, where have you been? I've been calling for days." "Sorry, Mom, I've been sick. Your sister said you've been seeing that man from the wedding. Vladislav, is that true? Are you serious about him?" Cassandra met Vlad's eyes across the room. He'd heard every word, vampire hearing picking up both sides of the conversation. "Yes. Very serious." "Well, bring him to dinner, this Sunday. I want to get to know him properly, not just at a wedding. Your father agrees." Panic seized her. Mom, I don't think… Sunday, 6 o'clock, no excuses. Patricia hung up. Cassandra lowered the phone slowly. So, my mom wants you to come to family dinner. Vladislav looked amused. Does she? This is a terrible idea. My family is overwhelming on the best days, and it's daytime and you'd have to pretend to eat food. I will come. He moved to her, tilting her face up. I wish to meet your family properly, to show them I am worthy of you, even if they cannot know the full truth. You really don't have to. I want to. Besides, it has been some time since I attended a normal human dinner. It will be educational. Sunday arrived with the inevitability of doom. Vladislav arrived at her apartment in late afternoon, the sun still high enough to be uncomfortable for him, despite the car's tinted windows. He wore a sweater and slacks, looking human and approachable, though no amount of casual clothing could fully mask his otherworldly quality. You look tense, he observed. I'm introducing my vampire boyfriend to my family. I'm allowed to be tense. Technically, they believe me to be human. That should simplify matters. You've never met my family. Nothing is simple with them. Her childhood home was in the suburbs, a sprawling colonial that her father maintained with military precision. Both her parents greeted them at the door, her mother immediately pulling Vladislav into a hug that made him stiffen in surprise before tentatively returning it. Finally, a proper introduction. Patricia stepped back, examining him. You're even more handsome in daylight. Doesn't the sun bother you? Cassandra choked. Vladislav remained perfectly smooth. I have sensitive skin. I use high-quality sunscreen. Her father shook Vlad's hand with crushing force, an obvious test that Vladislav passed by, not flinching. Military man myself. Marines. You have that bearing. Special forces? Something like that, though many years ago. Not technically alive, Vladislav had fought in more wars than her father could imagine, just on much older battlefields. Dinner was the ordeal she'd anticipated. Her extended family had been invited: Emma and her husband, various aunts and uncles, even Uncle Gerald again. They crowded around the dining table, passing dishes and asking increasingly invasive questions. Vladislav handled it with aplomb. He answered questions about his consulting work, vaguely enough to seem mysterious but believable. He complimented her mother's cooking while discreetly pushing food around his plate. He listened to Uncle Gerald's conspiracy theories with patient attention and managed to deflect her aunt's questions about grandchildren with charming humor. You're very pale, Aunt Margaret observed. Are you anemic? You should eat more red meat. I assure you I consume adequate nutrition. Cassandra kicked him under the table. He caught her eye, and the corner of his mouth twitched. After dinner, her father pulled Vladislav aside for the inevitable interrogation. Cassandra tried to follow, but her mother dragged her into the kitchen. He's wonderful, Patricia gushed. So polite, so attentive to you. And did you see how he looks at you, like you're the only person in the room? Mom. I'm just saying maybe I was wrong to worry. He's clearly devoted. She squeezed Cassandra's hand. Don't let this one go. In the study, Cassandra's father was conducting his own assessment. My daughter's been hurt before, he said bluntly. Last boyfriend left her for someone younger. Took me a lot of effort not to track him down. I will not hurt her. Vladislav met his eyes steadily. I would sooner destroy myself than cause Cassandra pain. That's dramatic. I am serious. Your daughter has become the center of my existence. I know we have not been together long by conventional standards, but I assure you my intentions are permanent. Her father studied him for a long moment. You planning to marry her? If she will have me. That was news to Cassandra, who'd been eavesdropping from the hallway. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. You haven't asked her yet? The timing has not been appropriate, and I wanted to speak with you first to ensure you had no objections. Well? Her father cleared his throat, obviously moved despite himself. I suppose if she says yes, you have my blessing. But if you break her heart, I'll find you. I don't care how good your security is. I would expect nothing less, sir. They emerged to find Cassandra pretending she hadn't been listening. Her father hugged her rare enough to be noteworthy and whispered, He's a good one. Strange, but good. The drive back to the city was quiet. Cassandra kept glancing at Vladislav, replaying his words in her mind. Permanent marriage. You told my dad you wanted to marry me, she finally said. I did. We've been together for 3 weeks. By your calendar, yes. By my experience, I have lived long enough to recognize when something is worth keeping. He glanced at her. Does the idea displease you? No, it's just fast. Would you prefer I wait? Court you for months or years according to human custom? I don't know what I prefer. My brain knows it's too fast, but my heart doesn't care. He pulled the car over suddenly, parking along the river where the city lights reflected on dark water. He turned to face her fully. I have existed for over 6 centuries, Cassandra. I have been alone for most of that, convinced I would remain so until time itself ended. Then you appeared stubborn, brilliant, brave enough to hire a stranger from an app and bold enough to love a monster. You have given me something I never thought to have again. Purpose beyond duty. Joy beyond survival. Hope. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box. Cassandra's breath stopped. This is not a formal proposal, he continued. I want to do that properly, at a time and place of your choosing. But I want you to know my intentions. I want you to understand that when I say permanent, I mean eternal. If you choose transformation, I want you as my queen, my partner, my equal. And if you choose to remain human, I will cherish every moment we have, knowing they are precious and finite. He opened the box to reveal a ring that was clearly antique, clearly expensive, and absolutely stunning, a large sapphire surrounded by diamonds set in intricately worked platinum. This belonged to a duchess I knew in the 1700s. She was a friend, one of the few humans who knew what I was and did not fear it. She left it to me when she died, made me promise I would give it to someone worthy. He took Cassandra's hand. You are the first person in 300 years I have wanted to give it to. Tears blurred her vision. Vlad, you need not answer now. Wear it or do not as you choose, but know that my heart, such as it is, belongs entirely to you. She let him slide the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, the sapphire catching the light like captured sky. I love you, she whispered, and I'm terrified of how much I love you. Then we are matched in our terror. He kissed her softly. Come, let me take you home. But they didn't go to her apartment or his converted church. Instead, he drove to the underground city, parking in a private garage carved from stone. I want to show you something, he said. He led her through familiar streets to an area she hadn't seen before, where the architecture shifted from Gothic to modern. They entered a building that looked newly constructed, all clean lines and open spaces. This, Vladislav said, is for you, for us. The apartment was massive, beautifully designed, with soaring ceilings and huge windows that looked out over the underground city. The furniture was comfortable but elegant, the kitchen state-of-the-art, the bedroom dominated by a bed that could easily fit 4 people. I had it built these past weeks, he explained, a space that is ours, not mine. Somewhere you could live comfortably if you chose to spend more time here. You built me an apartment in the vampire city. I built us a home. He looked uncertain, vulnerable in a way she rarely saw. If you want it, she turned to him, this ancient, powerful being who'd somehow become the most important person in her life, and made a decision. I want it. I want all of it, the home, the ring, the future. She took a breath. And I want the transformation. His expression shifted through shock, fear, hope. Cassandra, you need not decide this now. I'm sure. I've been sure for a while. I just needed to admit it to myself. She moved closer, taking his hands. I don't want a few decades with you. I want centuries. I want to be your equal, your partner, your queen. I want everything you're offering, and I'm ready for it. The risk? I know the risk, and I trust you to get me through it. She cupped his face. Transform me, Vlad. Make me yours in every way. For a long moment, he just looked at her, emotions warring across his face. Then he pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. You are certain? Completely certain? Yes. Then I will do it. But we must prepare. You should be in perfect health, well-rested and well-fed. I will need to gather supplies, prepare this space for your transformation. It will take a few days. How long does the actual transformation take? 3 days from first bite to completion. You will be in considerable pain for most of it. I will stay with you every moment, but I will not be able to take the pain away. I can handle it. I know you can. You are the strongest person I have ever known. He kissed her forehead. We will do this properly. I will not lose you to carelessness. The next week was a whirlwind of preparation. Vladislav had healers examine her. Yes, vampires had healers, apparently, who specialized in transformation medicine. He stocked the apartment with supplies she'd need for the aftermath. He taught her what to expect, how to manage the pain, what the first weeks of vampire life would entail. Cassandra called in sick again, claimed a family emergency, and essentially moved into the underground apartment. She wrote letters to her family to be delivered only if she didn't survive trying to explain the inexplicable. She settled her affairs as much as possible without revealing what she was about to do. The night before the transformation, Vladislav took her to the court. The throne room was full. Every vampire in the city gathered to witness what was apparently a rare and significant event. A king claiming a queen is a matter of state, Serafina had explained earlier. It must be done publicly, with the acknowledgement of the court. Vladislav looked every inch the ancient king in formal black, his white hair striking against dark fabric. Cassandra wore a dress he'd given her, deep crimson silk that made her feel like she was playing dress-up in someone else's life. The crowd parted as they walked to the throne. Vladislav's hand was firm around hers, steady and certain. I stand before you to announce my intention, he said, his voice carrying through the vast space. This woman, Cassandra Reed, has agreed to transformation. When she rises as one of us, she will be my queen, my equal in power and authority. Any who wish to object may speak now. Silence. Even Elisabetta, standing in the crowd with obvious displeasure, said nothing. Then it is witnessed and acknowledged. Vladislav turned to Cassandra, speaking more softly. Last chance to change your mind. Not a chance. He smiled, quick and genuine, and kissed her in front of the entire court. When he pulled back, his eyes were pure silver. Tomorrow, then. We begin tomorrow. That night, they made love with desperate intensity, both knowing it would be the last time for a while. Her human body, soon to be transformed into something new. Her human heart, about to stop and restart as something other. No regrets, he murmured against her skin. Only that I didn't meet you sooner. Then we would have had less time. You would have been decades younger, I decades more jaded. Perhaps the timing was perfect. Always the optimist. Only since knowing you. Morning came too quickly and not fast enough. Vladislav had her eat a large breakfast, drink plenty of water. Your body will need the resources, he explained. The transformation is traumatic. Every cell dies and rebuilds. You're really selling this? I want you prepared for reality, not fantasy. When the time came, they were in the bedroom of their new apartment. Vladislav had drawn the curtains unnecessary underground, but comforting somehow. He sat on the bed, pulling her into his lap so they faced each other. I will bite you 3 times, he said, his thumb tracing her pulse. Neck, wrist, and over your heart. The venom will enter your bloodstream and begin the change. After that, you must drink from me enough to bond us, to ensure the transformation completes properly. And then 3 days of agony? I'm afraid so. He looked genuinely pained. I wish I could spare you this. I know, but I'm ready. She tilted her head, exposing her throat. Do it. His fangs extended fully, longer than she'd seen before, wickedly sharp. He kissed her throat once, gently, then bit. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, like liquid fire injecting into her veins. She gasped, hands clutching his shoulders, but he held her firmly. He pulled back, licking the wound to seal it, and moved to her wrist. The second bite was worse, knowing what to expect but unable to brace against it. Her entire arm felt like it was burning from the inside. One more, he murmured. I'm sorry, my love. One more. He pulled down the neckline of her dress and bit directly over her heart. This time she screamed, the pain radiating through her chest like a supernova. When he pulled back, she was shaking. Now drink. He bit his own wrist, deep enough that dark blood welled immediately. Drink, Cassandra. She pressed her mouth to the wound. His blood was cool and thick, tasting like copper and something else, something wild and ancient. She drank until he gently pulled away. Enough. That is enough. He cradled her as the shaking intensified. The transformation has begun. I will be here the entire time. Every moment, I will not leave you. The pain crescendoed into something beyond description. Every nerve was on fire, every cell screaming as it died and rebuilt. She lost track of time, lost track of everything except the agony and Vladislav's voice, constant and steady, talking her through it. He told her stories from his long life. He described places he'd seen, people he'd known. He sang to her in languages that were dead before America was discovered. When she screamed, he held her. When she begged for it to stop, he whispered promises that it would, that she would survive, that he loved her more than existence itself. Time became meaningless. She drifted in and out of consciousness, the pain her only constant. At some point, her heart stopped beating. She felt it, the final thud, then silence in her chest. Terror spiked, but Vladislav's voice cut through it. It is normal. Your heart no longer needs to beat as it did. You are becoming something new. Stay with me, Cassandra. Stay with me. She stayed. Slowly, impossibly, the pain began to recede. Her body felt different, lighter, stronger, more. Her senses sharpened until she could hear the heartbeats of vampires in distant apartments, smell blood from streets away, see individual dust motes floating in the air. And she was hungry. So terribly, devastatingly hungry. Vlad, her voice sounded different to her own ears, richer somehow. I know. He was already there, already offering his wrist again. Drink from me. It will ease the first hunger. She drank deeply, and this time the taste was different, ambrosia instead of copper, pleasure instead of medicine. When she finally pulled back, she felt strong enough to move. She sat up slowly, taking stock. Her body felt powerful, like it could break stone with bare hands. Her mind felt clearer, sharper. And when she looked at Vladislav, really looked at him, he was so beautiful it almost hurt, every detail of his face, crystalline and perfect. How do you feel? He asked softly. Like I could run forever and never get tired. Like I could hear a whisper from miles away. She met his eyes. Like I'm finally who I was supposed to be. Relief broke across his face. You survived. You actually survived. He pulled her close and she felt wetness on his cheeks. He was crying, this ancient king who'd probably forgotten how. I was so afraid. 3 days of watching you suffer, unable to help. I have never been so afraid. I'm here. I'm okay. She kissed him, marveling at how different it felt with her enhanced senses. More than okay. I'm incredible. He laughed, the sound watery but genuine. You are incredible. He pulled back to study her face. Your eyes have changed. They are silver now, like mine. She moved to the mirror and caught her breath. Her skin was paler, luminous like moonlight. Her hair seemed richer, glossier, and her eyes were indeed silver, bright and inhuman and stunning. I look like you, she breathed. You look like a queen. He appeared behind her in the mirror, wrapping his arms around her waist. My queen. The hunger spiked again, and she gasped. He was ready, leading her to a small refrigerator she hadn't noticed before. Inside were bags of blood, medical-grade storage. From a blood bank, he explained. Ethically sourced, compensated donors. You will need to feed frequently at first until you learn control. She drank 3 bags before the hunger dulled to manageable. How long until I can be around humans safely? Weeks, possibly months? The first year is difficult. Every heartbeat, every whiff of blood will tempt you. But I will teach you control, help you through it. Over the following weeks, that's exactly what he did. Vladislav trained her in the skills she'd need, how to move with vampire speed without breaking things, how to control her strength, how to resist the call of human blood. He taught her to hunt ethically, to take only what she needed from willing donors. Serafina helped too, teaching her the social rules of vampire society. Constantine trained her in self-defense, teaching her to use her new strength effectively. Even Elisabetta grudgingly offered advice on managing the political aspects of being queen. Because she was queen now, formally crowned in a ceremony that was both beautiful and terrifying. The court bent knee to her, acknowledged her authority alongside Vladislav's. She wore a crown of silver that felt like responsibility made tangible. Overwhelming? Vladislav asked afterward in the privacy of their apartment. Completely. I was a junior architect 3 months ago. Now I'm vampire royalty. You are handling it beautifully. He pulled her close. though I confess I prefer you like this, away from the crown and ceremony. Just mine. Always yours." She kissed him deeply, savoring the way her enhanced senses made everything more intense. "So what now? We have forever. What do we do with it?" "Anything you wish. We could travel, I could show you all the places I have lived, all the wonders I have seen. We could stay here, build something new. Could we visit my family? Before we travel, before we do anything else. I want them to see me, to know I'm okay." He hesitated. "They will notice the changes. Your pallor, your eyes, the way you move. I'll tell them I'm sick, something that requires staying out of the sun. We'll figure it out." She cupped his face. "I don't want to disappear from their lives completely. Not yet." So they visited, armed with a story about a rare blood disorder that required her to avoid sunlight. Her family fussed and worried, but they accepted it. Her mother cried, her father looked concerned, but they were grateful she was alive and clearly happy. Emma pulled her aside at one point. "You're different," she said quietly. "Not just the physical stuff. You seem more stronger. Is everything okay?" "Everything is better than okay," Cassandra said honestly. "I found where I belong, Em. With him, in his world. I know it sounds crazy, but I've never been happier." "Then I'm happy for you." Emma hugged her carefully. "Just promise you'll stay in touch? I don't want to lose my sister." "You won't, I promise." It was harder than she'd expected, maintaining the double life. But Vladislav helped, and slowly they found a rhythm. Visits to her family every few weeks, carefully timed and managed. Work was trickier. She claimed to be freelancing from home, taking on projects she could complete in the underground apartment's office. Years passed. Her family aged while she didn't, and eventually the questions became too difficult to deflect. With Vladislav's help, she staged her death a car accident, closed casket, very tragic. She attended her own funeral from a distance, watching her family mourn, and felt guilt war with relief. "This is the hardest part," Vladislav murmured beside her. "Letting go of your human life. I am sorry you must experience it." "I chose this," she squeezed his hand, "and I'd choose it again, every time." They left the city after that, traveling as he'd promised. He showed her Paris at night, Rome's ancient streets, Tokyo's neon glow. They visited his childhood home, a ruined castle in Romania, where he'd been born mortal 6 centuries ago. "This is where it all started," he said, standing in what had once been a great hall. "I was a nobleman's son, training for war. Then a vampire found me dying on a battlefield and offered me a choice: death or transformation. I chose to live, not knowing what that would mean." "Do you regret it?" "Not anymore." He pulled her into his arms. "For centuries, I thought my transformation a curse, but it led me to you, so how can I regret it?" They stayed in the ruined castle for a month, just the two of them, no court or politics or responsibilities. They made love in ancient bedrooms, hunted in forests that had stood for millennia, talked about everything and nothing. "I want to do something," Cassandra said one night, "something meaningful. Being queen is an honor, but I want a purpose beyond politics." "What did you have in mind?" "Architecture. I was good at it before. What if we used our resources to build things for our kind? Better spaces, safer havens. We could hire human architects too, create opportunities. I could design a whole vampire city, make it beautiful and functional." His eyes lit up. "That's brilliant. We have the wealth, the time, the need. You could revolutionize how our kind lives." So she did. Over the following decades, Cassandra designed and built vampire havens across the world, underground cities that were marvels of architecture, combining Gothic beauty with modern convenience. She became known in vampire society as the Queen Architect, and her work drew admiration even from those who'd initially resented her elevation. Vladislav ruled beside her, but more and more he delegated responsibilities to others, preferring to support her work. They were partners in every sense, balancing each other perfectly. A century passed, then another. Cassandra watched humanity change through screens and careful visits to the surface. She saw technology evolve, society shift, the world transform. And through it all, Vladislav remained her constant. They had fights immortals arguing with the passion of beings who had infinite time to hold grudges. They had moments of doubt, times when the weight of eternity felt crushing. But they always came back to each other, always found their way through. "Do you ever miss it?" Vladislav asked one night, 300 years after her transformation. They were in their original apartment, now a private sanctuary away from court. "Your human life," Cassandra considered. She barely remembered it anymore, her family long dead, her old self like a half-forgotten dream. "Sometimes I miss the simplicity, but I don't regret leaving it. This life, with you, is everything I never knew I wanted. Even after all this time, I have not become boring." She laughed, the sound richer than it had been human. "Never boring. Infuriating sometimes, certainly, but never boring." He pulled her close, and they danced to music only they could hear, swaying in the candlelight as they had countless times before. Outside, the underground city thrived, filled with vampires living lives made better by their leadership. "I love you," he murmured against her hair. "I have loved you for 3 centuries, and I will love you for 3,000 more." "Just 3,000? I was hoping for longer." "Very well. I will love you until the stars burn out and time itself ends. Will that suffice?" "It's a start." They kissed, and it was as electric as the first time, as meaningful as every time in between. 300 years together, and eternity still stretching ahead. She'd paid a stranger $300 to be her date, never imagining she'd hired the love of her immortal life. But she had. And as they swayed together in the dim apartment, Cassandra Reed, once human, now vampire queen, knew that if given the choice again, she'd pay 1,000 times that amount for what she'd found. "No regrets?" Vladislav whispered. "Not a single one." And in the darkness of the underground city, in the arms of her ancient king, Cassandra finally understood what eternity really meant. Not just endless time, but endless love, endless discovery, endless moments exactly like this one. She was home, and she had forever to enjoy it.